Here's this week's My Boat feature.
One of the My Boat projects from last season was fall maintenance on the 7.4-liter Mercruiser MPIs, and at that time we discovered that the distributor shaft was heavily corroded and needed to be replaced soon.
But this will need to be replaced soon.
See? Well, we're back, and that's what we're doing, except we're not just replacing the shaft, we're going to replace the entire distributor assembly unit. A little bit more money in terms of parts here, but you know that the bearings are good, it's all together, it's a little bit more plug and play, it still have to be fairly precise. And in terms of DIY, a little bit more money for a lot more peace of mind is an excellent trade-off.
First, remove the old cap. It's just 2 screws on either side, though they're not always the easiest to access. Transfer the ignition wires one at a time to the new cap, which will allow you to ensure you have the wires in the same spot as they have to be in a specific order. Then unclip and slide the 2 shoes of wires out and move that out of the way. Before loosening the old assembly, use a straight edge of some sort to mark its position by leaving a small mark wherever it lines up. In this case, it's pointed right at the engine block. You're going to want to replicate that location when the new one goes in. Then is the theoretically simple task of loosening a single bolt holding the clamp that secures the assembly. However, in this case, it's in a horrifically inconvenient spot, and it's stuck. So it's a long process. We're using multiple wrenches to get more leverage and doing short turns to loosen, then tighten and loosen some more, doing everything we can not to break it off. If you have a distributor wrench available, this should be much easier, but I don't. When it is off, you can carefully slide the old unit out, noting the slight turn of the cap. That's because the gear wraps around the end of the shaft, so you have to factor that in when putting the new one back in. Before we do that though, here's a side-by-side of the old and new. The old unit was still working, but you can see the corrosion and we know the shaft was in bad shape, so replacement is wise. The only additional part is a small gasket that forms the secure seal, so remember to put that on first. Carefully slide the new unit in, and when you get down to the gear, remember to turn the cap counterclockwise slightly. Then, when it slides in, you'll be lined up with your mark. You can turn the cap feeling for grooves and slide it in gently. The bonus here is that if it's not lined up just right, thanks to the gears and the notch in the bottom of the shaft, it won't be all the way down, so unless that happens, you'll know it's not quite right. Once it is right, slide the clamp back on and tighten that bolt that you riddled with expletives moments before, and you're nearly there. Reconnect the wires, making sure the clips are secure, and then replace the cap and secure the 2 screws.
So we've got everything put back on. In concept, very straightforward. You just take the cap off, change the wires one at a time. There's 1 bolt, make sure it's in, and then tighten it all back up. But the precision is what makes this a little bit tricky, which also leads me to say that we're not quite done yet. What we want to do is make sure the timing is bang on. So we're going to use a timing light, I have to start the motor and make sure everything's firing at the exact right time.
Exactly how to use a timing light is a longer explanation for another day, and odds are very few people will have one, or will go out and buy one just for this task. If you do have one, you probably know how to use it. If not, maybe a friend has one. No? Well, paying a mechanic from your marina to help with this is a small cost that should be cheaper than the light, and it's worth doing because you want your timing to be perfect. Once the distributor is angled exactly right and that bolt is tightened right down, you are done and ready to rock.